Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak at this year's summit. And Stephen, thank you, because as a Spurs fan, I'm really pleased that you're no longer holding it at the Emirates. But thank you very much. The agenda looks absolutely fantastic. It looks really interesting and a thought-provoking event. And I'm especially delighted to see the focus on the positive impact sport and physical activity can have on wider society. As I'm sure I don't need to tell you, physical activity brings a number of benefits. Firstly, it can transform people's lives, and secondly, it can strengthen both communities and the economy. Furthermore, as ukactive set out in their manifesto for an active Britain published in May, physical inactivity costs the UK an estimated £20 billion and causes 37,000 deaths every year. And we can see from the two reports ukactive has launched today that public leisure provides a vital contribution. Now, our sports strategy, Sporting Future, published almost 2 years ago, stressed the importance of getting the inactive active and set out a new vision for a successful and active sporting nation. It marked a big shift in the way we think about promoting and supporting and investing in sport and physical activity. It emphasised that we, as a government and a country, need to think more broadly about the benefits that getting active can bring. The strategy encourages relevant departments to work closer together to create a more physically active nation, where children and young people enjoy the best sporting opportunities available, and people of all ages and backgrounds can enjoy the benefits that sport and physical activity can provide at every stage in their lives. We have committed to investing in and supporting sport and physical activity, not simply on the basis of the number of people taking part, but because of the wider value it has for us as individuals and society. Now, within the strategy, we set out 5 key outcomes that we want to strive towards and that we want to see delivered in return for government support and investment: physical well-being, mental well-being, individual development, social and community development, and economic development. And I'm committed to making sure that these outcomes drive everything we do. And I'm pleased with how the sport and the physical activity sector has responded to the challenge so far. On physical well-being, Sport England, in their latest strategy, has committed to spending at least a quarter of its total budget on tackling inactivity. As part of this, they will invest up to £130 million in 10 places across England to trial new and innovative ways of achieving a sustained increase in participation. Sport England will be devoting much of its focus to supporting those groups who have been traditionally underrepresented to get more active. For example, their Active Ageing Fund will invest up to £10 million into projects that help inactive older people get active. Their Tackling Inactivity and Economic Disadvantage Fund is investing £3 million to support inactive people from lower socioeconomic groups. And their Tackling Inactivity in Colleges programme will invest £5 million in 49 colleges across England to support their students to be more active. We've sought to tackle what people often feel is an artificial distinction between sport and physical activity. We've extended Sport England's role to cover certain types of physical activity to help make this a reality. An example of this is cycling for travel, which Sport England didn't use to measure but now do. What matters is that people are getting active in a way that suits them and that makes them more likely to continue being active in future. Also, Sport England's remit has been extended so that it is now responsible for supporting children aged 5 years and up with their physical activity outside school. And Sport England's Active Lives survey seeks to capture information on how active people are overall in their lives instead of purely in a sporting context. It's a big improvement on the previous Active People survey and will help us understand people's behaviour better and the barriers they face to getting active. The first set of results from the survey came through in January this year. They tell us that while over 60% of adults are meeting the Chief Medical Officer's guidelines on physical activity, over a quarter are currently inactive. I've got the politician's cough. We want to continue to see these figures improve and to encourage those that are currently inactive to take up physical activity. It's exactly this 25% of people that we have to reach and to nudge towards a more active lifestyle. We know that by supporting these people, there are huge benefits to be gained, not just for the individuals themselves, but for wider society. We also said in Sport in Future that government would be more joined up in its approach to sport and physical activity, and we're bringing together ministers in an interministerial group on healthy living to help this. And for the first time, this will include a range of government departments, including health, education, transport, and work and pensions, to look at how sport and physical activity can be made more widely accessible so that it benefits everyone. We know that collaborative working happens organically in sport, with projects that encompass health, business, community cohesion, and economic growth, to name just a few. And we need to help create more opportunities for this to happen. And the fact that there are 3 ministers that are speaking here today is evidence of the cross-government commitment to driving this agenda forward. Now, mental well-being, the second outcome we're aiming to achieve with our strategy, is just as important as physical well-being. And we're working closely with the Department of Health to explore how sport can improve its offer on mental health support. Excuse me. I recently hosted 2 roundtables, one for athletes, co-hosted by the Minister for Care and Mental Health, and the other for sport and mental health organisations, to agree an action plan for future work in this area. This is something that I'm passionate about, and I'm determined that sport should lead the way in breaking down stigma and raising awareness of mental health issues. Duty of care in sport has been another big priority, and Tanny has recently published her Duty of Care in Sport review, which made a number of recommendations about welfare and well-being of sports participants. And I'm extremely grateful for her and her hard work, and I welcome the contribution her report makes to the debate about the welfare of participants in sport at all levels. This has to be the high priority for the sector. I'm considering the recommendations from the report in detail and working with colleagues across government to look at what more can be done to support this agenda. In terms of the third and fourth outcomes of our strategy, the impact sport and physical activity can have on individual and community development is significant. And I've seen the results of this firsthand. I recently visited a project in Milton Keynes called MK Snap, which is using sport and physical activity to help those with learning difficulties. Activities like yoga and gardening are really making a difference to improve the quality of participants' lives. I also had a tour of facilities at Sir Herbert Lyon Academy, a mixed comprehensive in Bletchley, and I got to engage with school children during a PE lesson to learn about how the swimming pool can support a range of people, including different faith groups. I visited Active Norfolk's Mobile Me project, focusing on over 65s, and it's designed to address barriers to participation identified by this age group and taking physical activity interventions into sheltered housing and residential care homes. And I also attended the opening of a new designated parkour site in school in West London. And earlier this year, the UK became the first country to formally recognise parkour as a sport. And I'm delighted to see how this activity continues to grow its reach. I've been to Crawley Old Girls, they named themselves, not me, a female football development group organised by Crawley Town Community Foundation and the Football League Trust Female Football Development Programme. Weekly sessions are held for women aged 40 and over who have an interest in and a passion for football, who may not have had the opportunity to participate before. And in Worcester, I met Disability Sport Worcester, who specialise in creating and running sporting events, clubs and activities for children and adults with disabilities. And so we know there is good work going on locally to demonstrate the impact of sport and physical activity. Of course, sport is also a significant contributor to the UK economy, and economic impact is the 5th of our key outcomes that I referred to earlier. In the UK, sport was valued at £35 billion in terms of GVA in 2015. And as well as major events, grassroots sport contributes hugely too. People who follow sporting trends and buy the latest gear or purchase gym membership are playing a significant part. It is important that we continue to build and capitalise on the economic growth of the sector. A Sports Business Council has been established, which met for the first time in June, and it brings government and leading sports sector organisations together to ensure the sector continues to grow and prosper. And the initial areas for focus are IP, event staging, skills, and developing the sport economy evidence base. And a representative of the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy also attends the council. And I'd like to thank Steve from ukactive to agreeing to join the council and chair its skills working group. However, there's still some work to do in order to fully implement all of the actions set out in Sporting Future. For example, we remain committed to establishing a network of employers in line with the recommendations set out in Sporting Future. We're working with the Health Department and Work and Pensions Department to move this forward and hope to be able to make announcements on this shortly. The role of employers is vital in encouraging employees to be physically active. It isn't something that employers should see as just a benefit to their staff, as it is, of course, a benefit to them too. It brings greater levels of staff engagement and commitment to the organisation. We are already seeing this for ourselves through the take-up of our Civil Service Workplace Challenge. This is starting to have a real impact, and it allows departments and workplaces involved to set up challenges, track progress, and compete against each other. With people spending so much of their day at work and at their desk, it is vital that employers play a part in helping people to be active. Another commitment in the strategy was to strengthen the sector by introducing a new governance code. This is now in place. It will help to ensure that organisations receiving public funding are held to the highest standards of governance and conduct. Now, we've already seen some big improvements to the governance of the national governing bodies of sport and some big steps forward on diversity of leadership and board and council term limits. The deadline for organisations receiving public money to comply with the code was yesterday. And I know that Sport England and UK Sport are now working hard to assess the information they've received and to make important decisions on compliance. So much has already been achieved, and I'm proud of the efforts that we and the sector have already made, but of course there's still much to do. I want to see the code fully embedded within the organisations that we invest in, continuing to strive for the highest standards, improving their diversity and decision making. And looking ahead, I'm looking forward to seeing the sector build on this progress in the coming months, and I'm counting on its support to help make the UK an exemplar for good sports governance. But it's vital that we do as much as possible to uphold the integrity of sport too. If sports integrity is ever in doubt, the damage is considerable. This is an area in which I feel the UK should continue to take the lead. I've said it before and I'll say it again, protecting the integrity of sport is of paramount importance. If sport is corrupt or sport is perceived as being corrupt, the public can very quickly lose faith. If fans walk away, the sponsors and the media will follow. So it's vital that we never underplay the importance of protecting sports integrity. And by addressing the range of areas that present threats, of which doping is one, we can collectively mitigate those threats. The Gambling Commission's Sports Betting Intelligence Unit works to ensure Britain maintains its reputation as a safe place for sports betting to take place through protecting our betting markets and our consumers. And while I'm confident that this is a world-leading regulatory system, we need to make sure that we're able to assist and share our own industry best practice with other countries who may not even regulate gambling. Education of the health impact of doping in sport is also an area that I feel strongly needs addressing. And that is why I was pleased to see that one of the recommendations in the recently published review of the criminalisation of doping in sport was for image and performance-enhancing drugs to be integrated into drug information and education. And as has been highlighted several times over recent months, sports need to ensure that they have robust whistleblowing procedures in place and take appropriate action when people report concerns. Now, turning to facilities. One of the main points that we made in Sporting Future was that the customer and the experience of sport and physical activity is absolutely vital. One of the key determinants of whether or not someone will continue to take part in physical activity on a regular and enduring basis is whether they have appealing, attractive, accessible space to do this in. Tanny's call for a national network of community wellness hubs that would co-locate community services with leisure facilities speaks to this point. And I absolutely agree with her that we need to do more to support people to get more active, and I'm passionate about the role that physical activity and sport can play. With partnership working, I'm pleased to see that ukactive and Sport England are working closely together to deliver against Sporting Future and are in the process of developing a memorandum of understanding to set out how they can best work together in future. This MOU will strengthen the partnership between the two organisations across a range of priorities to ensure an efficient approach to delivery and to maximise the impact of their investment. And I understand the aim is to have this formal partnership agreement in place by the end of the year. Now, finally, a brief word about Brexit, because we can't do speeches these days without mentioning it. As we move closer to leaving the European Union in 2019, I'm determined that the needs of the sports sector should be fully brought into government thinking around the challenges and opportunities our EU exit will bring. My officials are working closely with representatives from the sector, including ukactive, to that end. I just wanted to reassure people that we are all working together to deal with these challenges and opportunities. So, in conclusion, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank ukactive and everybody here today for the contribution you have made already in implementing the sports strategy and improving the health of the nation. And I look forward to working closely with you to meet the rest of the aims of the strategy. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.